filling in for Christina Sorrento, who's out on vacation. DRC for March 11th. And the first item is Sonina Properties, Down County area. So, Adam, are you going to leave your deal?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. This is the DRC meeting and for the Sonina Properties. This is a CRT zone property on University Boulevard between Carroll Ave and Forston Street. So the applicant's team, most of you are here. I see a couple of folks are online. Thank you everyone for joining. Oh, I thought I shared my screen. Apologies. Let me bring it up. Images. Your patience. We shared our DRC comments on Friday. Those were sent to your team. And the major issues, I sent a follow-up email identifying kind of some of the key concerns that we teased out of the review. The biggest one was we need to make sure that that gross tract area number is solidified. We saw a few different numbers, so that's something we can talk through today and follow up on as needed. The development standards table, we'd like to see that updated too, just using the format that we're used to seeing and having all that information categorized that way. Public benefits, we're just looking for some more information and explanation about how that package you provided is just going to work. Frontage improvements, there were a number of comments that dealt with those, primarily geared toward coordination with Purple Line and some of the other frontage improvements that are already planned or happening out in the area now. And oops, second. And two other major concerns that we noted had to do just with general building and site design issues. There were some recommendations regarding facade design, open space design, and some questions about the termination of the existing driveway connections with the church property to your south. And then just addressing some of the environmental recommendations of the Long Branch sector plan, like how's the project going to do that? Just looking for additional explanation. And with that, I'll turn it over to you all and we can talk through any questions that you have. Thank you.
I think the issues that are most important are the technical ones, so you don't want the attorney talking about that stuff. I do have some questions about the architecture. We can like to try and get some feedback from you on that, but I'll leave the Pritam attack the technical stuff.
I've looked at all the comments, already some comments. A lot of these comments are WSSC. They are pretty much guideline. They have already recommended the approval. I have talked to Mary Labar, Fire Marshal or Fire Protection. She has looked at all the comments and I've already coordinated and she has agreed to approve it, provided we make a change that the building front entrance for the sprinkler room is on the University Boulevard side. The plan I have done already, submitted to her, shows the entrance sprinkler room on the University Boulevard side. So she's okay with that. Couple of comments which are primarily related to the access. I've talked to Mr. Somarajan, clear that DOT prefers the access to be 90 degree. We'll discuss that later on. It was decided at the early stage that we prefer a University Boulevard access that was not permitted. Therefore, Glenville access became, this is a dead line, dead end, no cul-de-sac. We are okay to have 90 degree access down the road as soon as the Glenville is improved and willing to post a bond even now to change the access later on. It works better right now, the way it is drawn, but we need planning support. Planning agrees, DOT may agree. That's where we are right now on the access. The bigger challenge we have is primarily related to the loading space. In the open space, the plan was presented in the pre-submittal meeting. We think because of the firefighter path, 15 feet, we think because of the loading space, not directly abutting the apartments. If you move that on the south side, it will abut the apartments. And a location is central to the building is preferred typically in most of the project. And this loading space with a trash dumpster inside the building is located such a way, and architect has coordinated very well We think we prefer that, and there's no advantage, we think, because of the drainage of the site is toward the low point on the microbiome. By moving it, it becomes more difficult design-wise as well. May need retaining wall, may need some fill towards the apartment complex site as well to drain it back to the microbiome. We also have a permeable pavement, but we can't do that because of the geotechnical fill on most of the site. Therefore, we want to keep the microbiome location. One of the comment is that the loading space should be smaller. We typically like 20 feet single space. We have provided 15 feet, we think. 12 feet would be not a good idea. We wonder whether we are okay with 15 feet. We'll change it so it'll be 15 feet. I think we have 15 feet right now. Other than there is a question on the open space, we have submitted the colored rendering as a way of presenting the overall plan for exhibit only. It was not to show anything other than just a color rendering. We can label that as the open space. We have more green area than we need, more open space than we need. We need 10% on the public space. On the street side, we have way more than that. The GFA is 87,415 prior to any dedication. With all the dedication done, it is 83,338 as we have, or 83,388 as we have in the plan. So the net square footage does not change. I will let the architect speak in a minute. I've looked at most of the comments and I've addressed the access. We have already coordinated with the state on the purple line improvements earlier as well. Catherine from Park and Planning initially agreed that we are okay with the master plan to not do anything other than maintain the 5-foot sidewalk. We wondered whether anything has changed over the last couple of months. We were waiting for the survey of the area because the purple line was under construction, and that's the reason for the delay. Otherwise, we would have submitted it way back. So second survey was done. The curb and gutter was picked up. The road is already done. Sidewalk along the master plan, purple line is already done. There's no additional improvement required at this time. We also understand from the DOT that the sidewalk now requires to be 6 feet as opposed to 5 feet. We'll change that. The tree panel based on David Post landscape architect comment was 5 feet. We provided 5 feet. We have to change it to 6 feet. That's okay to change that as well. So as long as the building setback, which we already talked to you, that is more than the 10 feet, we prefer 20 feet. The zoning requires 0 feet. So I think we're okay with the building. I may be missing 1 or 2 comments, but I thought I just have Eric speak to, or Steve speak to whatever the comments from architectural point of view. Have I missed anything, Dr. Sal? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Eric Colbert with Eric Colbert and Associates Architects. And there are just a few comments here that directly relate to the architectural design of the building itself. So I'd like to address those. One from Grace Bogdan that had to do about the massing on the corner of Fulton Street and University Boulevard. So I think that this and another comment, what I'd like to do is work with staff where maybe we get into kind of a sketching exercise. I think that would be the most efficient way to work through this other than us trying to, because there's, I can understand the, what's being said here to a certain point, but I think that the solution to it is not clear to me how that would work. So that's one. Plus, Adam Bossi was talking about some change in the expression of the facade where Carroll Avenue and University Boulevard come together. So again, I think that's something that I think we have this really smooth curve that it does a good job of, you have these two streets coming together, not at a 90-degree, but kind of at a slight angle. And so the curve kind of does a really good job of justifying those two different angles in an elegant expression. So what I'd like to do is, sit down and sketch how we can do that without kind of, diluting the original concept of the facade design. Another issue was the request to add more balconies. I think that that's problematic in a way, in the sense that we have issues that relate to lot coverage and other factors that make the added balconies conflict. So again, I think that's another thing that, we'd like to work with ownership. We do obviously have balconies, but I don't think it's not set in stone, whether we comply with exactly the way it's shown on our drawings or adds ones in certain areas. So again, we respectfully like to work with staff on that particular issue. I don't know of any other points that specifically had to do with the architectural character of the building that anyone in the board wanted to discuss, but we can certainly address that.
Grace, contact you, try and set up some kind of a
Yeah.
sketching exercise.
I think generally, I want to say, I know that we've been meeting with you guys for a long time, and I think the design's come a long way. But we also have to recognize at the same time that this is just sketch plan, so this is really just the beginning of our formal process. And so we're going to continue to ask to massage the design as we move forward from sketch to site. And so.
Absolutely.
Happy to work with you.
This is Paul Mortensen. I wanted to just make a couple comments. One is this design has come a very long way, and we're very happy with the direction. And we'll be happy to meet to discuss some of our design comments. I wanted to just suggest, though, on some of the previous comments on the courtyard in the back. Although there is plenty of public open space, as you suggest in your calculations, we like to try to maximize the viability, the usability of those public open spaces as much as possible. And having the service driveway, almost perfectly bifurcate what could be a very nice courtyard for the building just seemed to be unfortunate. And so that's why we had the comment. The other comment, typically on an apartment building, the garbage chutes and all of those elements are usually in interior corners of an apartment building where it's difficult, obviously, to put a unit and have maximize the natural light coming in on those interior corners. So the suggestion was to try to consolidate the driveway, try to consolidate your services potentially nearer to a corner so that the middle could be more usable. The middle of the courtyard could be more usable for the residents, and potentially that middle on the elevation could be also more usable to potential units. So that was where we were coming from. The comments that we had along the fronting street, it just seemed that this, that the sideway or the sidewalk is kind of jutting in and out and all around, and there might be a very legitimate reason for that, but it would have been nice in the suggestion. I think we're just saying, can it be cleaned up, straightened out, and made more, regular along the street edge? And so we had not heard at that point when we made the review whether there had been specific coordination with the Purple Line design and so on. So that is where essentially those two site design comments were coming from. But as far as building design and any other design, we'll be happy to meet with you in another meeting and discuss in detail.
Can I make a comment, please?
So you're absolutely right that normally in an apartment building, when you turn the corner, the area of dead space happens to be on the inside of the corner. And that's normally where we would put the stairs and elevators. This one, I think that we went in a little different direction, and then there are two reasons for it. One is if we move the loading area all the way to the south of the courtyard, it puts it up against some apartment windows there that would be closer to the south side there. And the second reason is that where we have it currently, it puts it in very close to the actual middle of the building so that it's equidistant from one end to the other. So that people that are living on the north end move-ins and trash, things like that, for those folks don't have as far to go to get to that area. So that was the thinking of why we located it where it is.
Again, we're not suggesting that the driveway would be right up next to the elevation. But we are suggesting that it would be nice if we could maximize the actual usable public space in that courtyard. And right now, by bifurcating it almost perfectly, it really is minimizing, the amount of public space that actually could be used by residents and guests. So that's where we're coming from.
Okay, my question then would be, if you move the loading dock, the loading berth area, maybe like 10 or 15 feet south, would that help solve the problem, or do you want it all the way down?
Again, I don't know what all the restrictions are because we haven't, seen specific, plans and details. But certainly the goal in our mind is to maximize the public use of that courtyard space.
I think because we are here at Sketch and it's really early, I think the point of the comment is to explore alternatives. And so
Okay.
those could be shrinking the size of the loading space because we noted that it is a very large space that you're providing right now, which is not necessary. That also contributes to more impervious area and more stormwater retention that you would need for that. And also looking at the location of it to see if there's anywhere better on site that would help improve the design of this open space area.
Absolutely, we'll sketch some alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, Ms. Torma hadn't arrived when you made your initial comments about the access through us. Would you repeat it just so she can hear it, though?
By the way, I'm not the reviewer, I'm just.
I know, you're here, so it must be important.
Yeah. He's on.
I have a quick question regarding University Boulevard as well. The master plan calls for bike lanes along University Boulevard. So along the frontage, the bike lanes should be installed.
In stone?
Should they be installed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
When they don't show, the plans don't show the bike lanes along University Boulevard along the frontage. It's quite a large frontage.
We were under the impression that the width of the road built include the bike lane, whether the purple line will stripe it. If they have not identified it, we couldn't find it out. So basically the width of the road is based on the already built curb and gutter, all the sidewalk, everything is based on the bike lane to be part of that already.
So does that bike lane, that's something which I need to see as part of the cross section and include the purple line as well. So I'm not sure if the bike lanes have enough separation from the travel lanes or not. If not, that's something you will have to provide. I understand purple line, if purple line is doing it or not. I don't know. You probably will have to coordinate with purple line and show me that what they are doing exactly.
We have the cross section and we'll be able to send that to you.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to understand who's doing what, and I'm not so sure, so usually if you were coming in first for a project, we ask you to do the improvements unless there's a reason why. So we would ask you to do those improvements.
We had a meeting with the state as well, just about a week ago, and we asked that question. They have not answered it either.
Yeah, I know. They're probably relying on us, the county, to respond for them. Who did you talk to at the state?
Talked to 3 people. Kwesi was one of them,
Okay.
on the state highway.
I
And
don't know.
the hydraulics people,
Okay.
Mesh was another one, Amy was another one.
I don't know, Crazy. I don't know if you had any comment. He's on.
Yeah, no, I still haven't found out that information.
But we can work together. Deepak's your reviewer. We can work to try and
We
figure
were
out.
of the impression that this comment will be addressed at the preliminary and site plan.
Yeah.
Even if
That's-
the widening is required of the curb and gutter, the dedication is being done to the exactly what the master plan required. Plus,
Yeah.
we have a setback enough to manage that. Okay. I think you're okay with it,
Yeah, that's.
right?
Yeah, you had a question for me, I think, regarding the access.
The access was primarily an issue. Wonder whether it can be maintained. We don't like the angle typically in most of for the University Boulevard, we'll never do that. Because this is a dead end, because the architect had preferred this access, we did coordinate early enough. But I think the planning should advise whether they can support the recommendation and the DOT can agree that it can be done later on. And we can provide a sketch plan to show where the access could be later on and post a bond to do that and lose one or two parking if we have to down the road.
Where
But
are
it
we
won't
talking
change.
about?
I'm talking about the access coming out of Glenville.
Oh, yeah, so
The-
I
the
think we
angle
didn't
that-
like that kind of split thing.
Right.
Is-
That's the issue right now, and if we make a change, it will change the building, change the units, change everything. Again, we may change it later on anyway, and the question would be, are you okay with that for the time being?
We can make it as a comment that we would, and I don't know how strongly worded we're gonna do, but we'll reevaluate it. Since you're only at sketch plan, we can. So you just wanna move forward with the project? and
That
then
would be the
look at
preference if we can, because we will have plenty of time, because even the purple line coordination is still ongoing.
Okay.
Stormwater management concept coordination is ongoing because we have lost some permeable payment, we need a waiver.
So what we'll do is we'll probably say something to the effect of that we don't like how the access splits, kind of like that. We'll reevaluate it at preliminary. And you guys.
Or even a condition that it can be done when the Glenville is extended, we can provide the access later on as well.
But. I don't know, but I don't think that's gonna happen, so,
I understand.
I think that we would wanna take another look at it at preliminary plan. And and the access points are decided at preliminary plan, so we need to come up with a solution at that point.
Understand.
So, you can show us all other alternative concepts that when you submit your preliminary plan. And we'll consider them.
Also, I want stormwater management concept comment that we typically provide what they call storm drain analysis at the concept stage to MCDPS, so that the adequacy of the downstream system is documented, but the state and the DOT does not review at this stage of the game. We've been told that they want DOT initial, some kind of a comment saying they're okay for a connection of the storm drain. We're only connecting to the University Boulevard, and we're connecting on the Fortune side. The pipes are way more than adequate on either side. Again, at a preliminary plan, a site plan, we find that there's a problem, we can provide detention on site or whatever. That could be a condition of the concept, but we are not sure what to do.
Okay, so you're saying DPS wants us to review the storm drain analysis now?
The downstream adequacy, and they want the
Yeah.
state and the MCDP, I mean DOT.
Yeah.
Initial comment saying they are, in general, they're okay.
So
Yeah, this is Mark Etheridge real quick.
Thank you.
Pretab, if you want to provide on-site detention as an option, you can show us now that that's possible. But we can't approve the concept if we don't know that there's conveyance or on-site detention is practical. I don't think you're going to get on-site detention very well on this site. It's awfully tight. I don't know what the vertical is. So we need to make sure that there's capacity in the system before we approve the concept. That's all.
Well, we may lose the stormwater management, the roof detention is one possibility.
You can show it as an alternate on the concept. That shows two alternate concepts and give us enough detail for each one so that we can make sure we know that each is viable and we can approve it with both versions. So that if there isn't capacity, you already have an approved concept for on-site detention. We can do that, but you'll have to show it as an alternate officially through that concept approval process.
Understood. But I'm also saying that in general, we are not adding more impervious area in general. The existing condition, what purple line has done already, we don't have access to the purple line comps. I'm not sure whether the way somebody who can provide that, so we can look at their comps. Because we're really using their line, basically, they already have done all the analysis. Any idea who might have the comps from purple line? We tried, we didn't get it.
who did you talk to?
We talked to State Highway, we talked to the purple line contact, we got the drawings, but they did not provide anything. They provide the profiles, they provide the plan, but there's no comps.
Yeah, so we emailed Deepak about it and asked him, and he might be able to find something.
Wonderful. That'll help quite a bit because we are tying into the system, basically. Be very helpful.
So Mark, do you want us to review the storm drain now?
Let's talk about it. We can talk about it offline. If the amount of imperviousness is going to be decreasing then we don't need that computation. If it's going to be the same, we could probably just say we could overlook the verification because we're not going to make the situation any worse. Pretam, did you say that the impervious area is not changing?
It actually, to our knowledge, is decreasing.
Okay, just
Document.
detail that in your resubmission of the concept, and we will consider that requirement, and we may be able to just overlook that at this point. If you're decreasing the amount of imperviousness, that's fine.
We'll check that.
Yeah, right now it's a office building with a big, sea of parking around it. So it's
Right.
very union area.
Well, as Grace just reminded me of a good point, I think for our purposes, the stormwater approval, isn't necessary until preliminary plan time. But given all the things you have going on with Purple Line and whatnot, I'm very happy that you're working on it now. I think that that's a very smart thing to be doing. We are running short on time here. We've got about 4 minutes left if there's any other questions, and then I would just need a minute to wrap up with our schedule and move forward.
Adam, I have a quick question. This is Deepak with DOT. Is there going to be a TIS for this project?
I can answer that at the early stage of the sketch plan submittal. Sharrier, the traffic engineer, evaluated it and he advised that traffic study is not required. We have submitted the traffic statement already. I have not seen any comment.
A traffic statement is different than, what are we calling it today? It's scoping. I need you to submit a scoping form.
Understood.
And they call it something, what do they call it? They call it now, it's a transportation adequacy form. So we need you to submit that regardless of the statement. And that should be, for anybody's on, that should be for every single project that comes through planning. We ask every developer should be doing that. That gives us a sense of whatever you're doing. Doesn't mean you have to do a traffic study, but we want to see the numbers.
The
and
scoping
understand
form
everything.
online or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called transportation adequacy.
Ask Sharrier to check that.
Absolutely.
So the traffic studies are never really in the same thing, but yes, if you can submit it, the sooner you submit that to us, if you submit it sketch, concept, whatever. Anything less than 5, I think, is you don't have to submit it, but every project should be submitting that to us.
And then I think just one last comment, I want to jump in about the gross tract area. From what you submitted, it does not look like you're taking into consideration the previously dedicated right of way. So it usually is measured out to the center line of the street. And so that is why we're asking for the exhibit to show what you're calculating as total gross tract area.
We're told based on the tract area prior to the 2022 dedication, when the lots 1, 2, and 3 plus the parcel. So we call that to be the main area 87,415. In 2022, Purple Line took over about 2,000 square feet. So we subtracted that. And then Purple Line, we're dedicating again about 600 something. Are you saying that we should go back to the center line of the entire site and then call that to be the total parcel?
Yeah, the only reason that you
We
wouldn't
have
have
not done that
purple line
typically.
area is if they compensated you for that square footage.
It's like
We
decent.
want to see all through the center line.
We would need to see the exhibit of what you are and aren't counting to be
We
sure.
can add exhibit, you will see that.
Thank you.
All right, so just to round out our discussion here, this is a sketch plan, so it is on a 90-day review schedule. We're here at DRC on March 11th. So the applicant team, your first resubmission is due Tuesday, March 25th. Staff and reviewers, our next round of comments is then going to be due April 4th. The final submission is due from the applicant on April 14th. We'll be looking for your agency review letters with your recommendations on Tuesday, April 22nd. And we'll post our staff report on May 5th ahead of a May 15th planning board hearing date. I can do it, yeah. All right. Neil, I think we're back to you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
In a minute or two, we'll be up for the next one, Cabin John Park.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
This is Neil Bronstein again, sitting in for Christina Sorrento. She's out on vacation. Our second item is Cabin John Park, also in Down County. We have Marco Fuster here, who's the lead reviewer, and he'll introduce the project.
Morning, Marco Booster with Down County Planning. With the Cabin John Park subdivision. It's for 3 lots. A number of the key concerns are in this particular area to the west of the proposed conservation easement. There's pockets of slopes associated with highly erodible soils, forest, mature trees, and there's numerous provisions to protect such areas. Then a portion of the proposed conservation easement in this area has an existing drainage easement. The label for that is right here. And there's that the existing easement would have to be abandoned before the new conservation easement could be recorded there. In general, there's provisions for screening and variance mitigation tree replacements, whereas the plants don't yet show any plantings. Then for the frontages, like to have more cross sections provided for further consideration. Potentially there'd be more dedication required, and potentially a bike path on the north side of Arthur. The cross sections would be needed, and then further interagency coordination after that. Also, MacArthur Boulevard is historic and under control of National Park Service, Army Corps engineer. Additional coordination there would be needed. So those are most of the big picture items. Happy to answer any questions you all may have.
I'd like to talk about the road section, I guess, for 80th Place. And I noticed in I think the DOT comments that 60 feet was mentioned as the ultimate right of way.
Is it open section or closed section?
There's no curb and gutter, so I guess it's open section. I mean,
So it's open section, so,
identified as a neighborhood street in your comments.
right, but the,
Put right away.
but so for an open site, the complete streets doesn't really address open section roadways. It really is a closed section roadway. So 60 feet would be a normal right of way width. What we want to see is everything within the right of way that is shown, that is required per the cross section. And so I don't necessarily, there's probably no sidewalks out there, I would assume. So who was the reviewer on the project? Brenda?
Rebecca, yeah, it was me.
So 60 feet is for a closed section roadway. You have to fit with everything within the right of way, including a swale. Or how your whole frontage is your driveway.
Yeah, we have, yeah, as you can see, we have nothing, no frontage there, so. Also, it seemed to suggest, some of the older plats suggested that we have dedication on our side already that would allow for 60 feet. There was supposed to be a dedication on the other side, which never happened. There was a reference on a plat, a reference on the plan there.
Yeah, you'd have to look back a bit, do some research on the plats and show us that information.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you know, for a 60 foot, it usually goes to 74 feet with a sidewalk, a swale and a tree lawn and everything, so. It's kind of hard to tell from this. We need to investigate further. I don't know, Brenda, do you have any other?
Well, I do know that based on the fire and rescue, they might even need a little bit more there on the just the pavement of the width pavement of what's present in that street is very narrow right now. So I did put a note about that as well.
So is there a possibility of improvements to the road? Other than what fire and rescue would need, or would we just be based on whatever
It would be based on-
satisfies
For the actual paving section, it would be based on fire rescue. Is Marie on?
Yeah, I'm here. How wide is 80th Place?
The paving section.
I would guess about 16 feet, but we'll confirm that.
Yeah,
Okay,
you-
so we're at least 12, which
We're at least
means
12. We are at least 12 all the way back to where you mentioned there, down to MacArthur. Yes.
okay. So then it becomes an issue with the driveway apron.
So how wide does the driveway apron need to be then?
You said that it is 16-ish, you think?
I think so. Yeah, but we'll confirm that.
Okay, so let's say it's 16 and you're going on a 20-foot wide driveway, so I'd be looking for an apron that accommodates. So if you're going to, that's another thing, is trying to use the next stretch of 80th as a, are you doing a turnaround on site? No, you're using 80th as your turnaround.
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
that means your apron's gonna need to accommodate, if the pavement's 16 feet wide, at least 27-foot radii in both directions, and then you'll have to show me that you have at least 60 feet long of 16 feet of pavement on the other side of the driveway apron as well to make a turnaround there. But we can work through what we need to be. I don't know exactly how big the apron needs to be, but probably bigger than what you've shown. I don't think too much bigger though, if you have 16 feet all along.
Okay.
One thing I see on the plan here, it looks like there's existing overhead telephone poles here that would, well, suppose they'd have to move if you're gonna widen the apron there.
So, Marco, in your comments about the restricted area that you highlighted, you're asking for 25 feet in addition to protecting those areas?
All right, so right, this band of slopes with the highly erodible soils. So there's numerous provisions for protecting such areas under 53K. There's provisions about a 25-foot setback, which generally is done with a excuse me, building restriction line between any building and unsafe areas, but we'd have to pin down what the unsafe area is, which a little early to do at this point.
Okay. But it seemed like a lot of your comments were trying to suggest that we need to move at least lot 2 in a westward direction.
Yeah, in excuse me, in general, the development envelope would need to shift westward. There would be different ways of protecting the area, or perhaps it'd be done in a combination of ways. Generally, those are all suggested under 5032K, but they generally include conservation easements, rearrangement of the lots, use of building restriction lines, and more restrictive limits of disturbance. So through some combination of those, the area could be protected. Not ready to spell out any one particular way or combination of ways.
MacArthur Boulevard, you mentioned getting into 1-inch trees.
Right, for the given that the MacArthur Boulevard's historic, so for forest conservation variance purposes, you would need the variance for removal or impacts of trees down to 1 inch. However, from general observation, there's a considerable amount of invasive plants along there. There may not be too many of them, but likely there's some, but we'd have to take a harder look at that.
Those are just the ones in the right of way. So it's not on the property itself, but just in the right of way.
Right, sure, the ones in the historic setting.
That variance is from the planning board.
Correct.
Morning, Casey Cerner with Miles and Stockbridge here on behalf of the contract purchaser and applicant. With us is Dan Demaria and Nick Demaria and Dave McKee. I had a question in chatting with Marco about the overlapping of the forest conservation easement and the drainage easement. I understand there's some thing that
Not even mine, I know.
there's something that DPS had, I guess, asserted a while back that can't occur, and I was just wondering if anybody has more information on that. Rebecca?
Who came in first? Or are you proposing them at the same time?
Drainage easement exists. It was from the 1950s, from an old plat.
Right.
Right, so you can't really have a forest conservation easement overlapping with any easement. Because it just creates forest conservation will just say, we have a say. And you don't want that, so you should keep the drainage easement or the forest conservation easement outside of the drainage easement.
Well, we've always been allowed to overlap forest conservation easements with easements that have similar terms, that they don't conflict. And that was something I know I've worked on with the legal department of park and planning here for a number of years. Go ahead, Sue.
Speak to that a little bit where approximately 15 years ago, in the prior to 15 years ago or more, routinely did overlap.
Which we should never have done.
What's that?
We don't, I mean, the reality is we don't want easements to overlap. And
There's a memorandum of understanding that closed that practice about 15 years ago. A memorandum of understanding. not 15
overlapping
years.
easements.
Or-
Yeah, some easements are fine, like PUE, PIE. Forest conservation is just, we can't have that overlap.
Overlap the drainage easement specifically.
Generally, any of DOT or DPS.
I was gonna ask was, do you know who this drainage is granted to?
No, I'd have to look to see who benefits.
Yeah, this is Mark Ethers at Water Resources. I was going to ask the same question. What is the purpose of the drainage easement? They used to put those on lots of times in the old days because there was a possible floodplain back there. We don't have a delineated floodplain back there. We probably need to delineate one, but we might want to consider whether or not that drainage easement has a purpose anymore.
Well, I guess how does the use of the drainage easement conflict with the forest conservation easement? Would there be something done to the drainage easement that would impact forest conservation?
So if we're, tell me if I'm wrong, say if it were, if there's a pipe there and the county need to go and check up the pipe, but there's a forest conservation easement on there, forest conservation would have to agree to allow us to work on the pipe.
Okay,
Which is why we generally don't like those overlapping easements.
but what if it's just a natural swale?
It's a drainage conveyance system. Similar to pipe. Pipe is underground, that's above the ground. It has to be clear so it can convey it. Sorry.
So but anything that we wanted to do to that pipe, because it's in a forest conservation area, we'd have to get their approval from. And we don't want to do that.
In this case, it's a stream. The natural.
So maybe you can get rid of it. I don't know who it's for.
Yeah. What's the process to get rid of it? You guys
It depends.
are granted to. The difference between being granted to private and public. Okay. Got it. I will look into that.
The thing I was gonna say was, the access point. That apron needs to be widened.
Yeah.
Get into the next door neighbor's frontage. Yeah. Probably need some coordination with the neighbor to make sure that's okay.
We need something in writing.
Really, I think we've maxed out what we can do already on the plan. So, but I'll get with Marie on that directly and work that out.
Can you, I mean, it doesn't appear like I can't see the roadway section on that plan. Like the actual paving. So you should probably dimension that.
We'll do that.
And show where it is. I can't figure out where it is, so.
You can see it's labeled existing edge of pavement on our side. And on the other side, and there's a a stone curb and gutter on the other side that somebody's just put in, a neighbor, I guess, on the other side. So you can see the two sides there.
Oh, it's very hard. Yeah.
You know, if you could put perhaps a shading over the paved surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a potential for you to widen the pavement section? Because I know 16 is not standard 20. And then you wouldn't need such a wide driveway apron.
Perhaps on our side, we could. I mean, there are poles and things on the other side that would, and of course, the neighbor has a curb and stone there, but could come our side a few feet, I would say. That might help things.
All I have. Dan?
That's why you got you guys.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Right, take a moment to go over the schedule.
Yep.
So the projected planning board date would have been June 19th. However, that's a holiday. So most of the submission dates, the hearing date are compressed by 1 week. So the first resubmittal, March 26th, with a final resubmittal April 8th. Yeah, the planning board date would be June 12th rather than the 19th.
So when do you need?
Oh, agency letters,
Yeah.
April 28th. And this all assumes there's no extension.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for a preliminary plan, site plan, and sketch plan. First, just want to start off and just acknowledge how important this project is to Wheaton, and we're happy to review it. We know there's a number of different comments, and we look forward to the collaboration efforts that will be needed to get this project to where it needs to be and get it to the planning board. With that said, I think at this point, some folks wanted to at least do introductions so that we know who everybody is. I'm Troy Leffers, the lead reviewer for the project.
Matt Golden, regulatory supervisor from Mid-County.
Katie Mancarini, helping out with transportation review.
Karen Carpio with WSSC. Natasha Fahim, urban designer in the county.
Darcy Buckley with Montgomery Parks.
Carrie Sanders, chief Mid-County division.
Rebecca Torma, MCDOT.
Oh, sure. My name is Adrienne Mohan, and I'm co-founder of the Wheaton Gateway Working with Concerned Citizens who live in the area.
Morning, Sam. I'll leave this right away.
Tim Williamson, I'm with DEP, review water and sewer plants.
William Combs, working with PSV on the project.
Tim Steeman, engineering manager at CPJ.
I'm Silver, planning manager at CPJ.
Corey Roberts, development manager at PSV.
Hi, Chris Rulin with the law firm of Lord Shirley and Brewer.
Brandon.
Brandon Nicholson with NK Passive, design architect and passive house consultant.
Authority team, do you want to introduce yourselves? And I think Sam's on.
Sure.
Yes.
Bill Fears with Torty Gallison Partners, architect of record on the project.
Carlo Andres from 30 Galleys in Partners. We are the architect of record.
Shane Poland, principal, PS Ventures.
I think that does it, bro, team.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and just do a little overall of what the project and what the scope. The project's located at the corner of Venters Mill and University. It has additional frontage on East Avenue. It's a series of four different zones, two CR zones, CR5, CR3. It has a CRN of 1.5, a R60 piece at the corner of Upton and East Avenue. That's a plan for a green space. Is roughly 952,000 square feet of total density, and then a commercial piece of 55,000 square feet, a residential of 897,000 roughly of residential. Is planned for 40% NPDUs, which is an increase from the 30% NPDUs from the sketch plan, which is why they would essentially have to do a sketch plan amendment as part of this scope of the project. They also, right now, they're planned for 15 stories on one building that's located at the corner of Venters Mill University. The building that fronts on Venters Mill, 12 stories, and then the CRN is a roughly 6 stories. It's a two-phase project. The major comments I'll just highlight now, I know we have to break off in different work sessions as we work through the plans, and we can start scheduling that within this meeting. But Kensington Boulevard, I think we will want to see some comments from WSSC in regards of how that easement could be dealt with, or the elements that you're showing within those easements to ensure that the project can kind of go forward with what you're planning on. I think we want to see those comments or elements from WSSC before we go to the planning board. We want to get more clarification on the phasing, timing, how you plan on constructing. And then there's a series of transportation comments to deal with the multiple frontages and architectural comments that we just have to schedule additional meetings for. But at this time, I'll turn it over to the applicant team to kind of highlight the things that, since we have folks here, what you think you would want to speak to in regards to the comments you've seen thus far.
Thank you, Troy. We appreciate you guys taking the time to meet with us at a DRC meeting for us to go through this. Agreed. I think we're gonna have to have a series of breakout sessions to discuss some of these comments more. I think they would involve a little bit more depth of thought and conversation for us to reach a resolution. But we appreciate staff working with us collaboratively to get to that point. I think one of the items that I wanted to reference first was, Troy, you sort of left at that one at the last with Kensington Boulevard. As far as the abandonment conversation with WSSC, we have been progressing that. Again, just to let you know, and I think we have an updated approval letter from WSSC with the context of what we are showing that would be in the abandoned right of way versus what is currently shown existing on the site. I think our initial thought was for the stair that's in question that I think staff particularly had some comments about is our intention was for the areas that do crest into the right of way. Our thought was to give a public access easement to ease that back to the county to be able to access that, whether it be for maintenance or any other thing. The lighting and everything else shown would obviously be on our property for us to construct and build. But that was the initial thought behind that. And so far with what we are showing, WSSC is aware of what infrastructure we're proposing that may encroach on theirs. They're comfortable with the clearance levels. They have issued an updated letter, and we are working with the abandonment applicant, which is the Bank Realty property, to pick back up that abandonment process and move that forward.
So there's no point in taking away, there's no point in going through an abandonment if you're just giving us a public access easement. So it would have to be a PAE and PIE. How about this? Just keep those stairs in the right of way. Or if you're gonna maintain those stairs, that's the question, who's gonna maintain those stairs?
Well, portion of it is in right of way, portion of it isn't in right of way as it exists today. So even if they weren't doing any abandonment, portion of the stairs would still be on their property. So if they go forward with the abandonment, everything would be private. So there would be any scenario you're dealing with a PA.
Right, but a PAE doesn't make it private. A PAE makes it public access easement. So it's basically our attorneys assume that is county right away. But who maintains the stairs?
I guess what I'm saying is regardless, I think you would have a PA. Because the stairs, like if you look at the screen.
Right, or they could just put everything in right away.
I mean, our intention is to maintain the stair as part of our property. I think that is the current plan from the applicant.
Stairs have to be.
There's have to be.
And that is our intention. And just to clarify, we aren't the applicant for the abandonment. That is the adjacent property. So.
No, I understand that you're not the, yes, I understand that.
But yeah, as far as maintenance, I think that's our intent to maintain.
Is the thought that the abandonment would be going forward after these entitlements?
No, the intent is to bring it forward. And our goal is to have the abandonment completed prior to getting to the planning board. So I know there was some series of comments about alternative planning designs. Our goal is to sort of push that forward, and we've been re-engaging with the Bank Realty team, who's the owner of the application, to restart that process. I think our point of contact at Montgomery County Department of Transportation is no longer with the agency.
It's fine. I mean, you can work through, Billy Whelan is your reviewer, so you.
You see, okay, so we will let the applicant know, because I think they're still trying to sift out who that
Right,
point of
he can
contact
tell
is.
you who that is, but
Let's get back to your point.
we haven't seen the abandonment move forward, so that's why the comments are written the way they are.
Understood, understood.
The abandonment completed is a vague term. So it goes through the review process and they make a decision, and then it's actually completed or finalized or vested once you plat the property. So I don't foresee them actually being able to get to that point to put forward planning board unless you're taking a really long time to go for this project.
I think the comment was meant for approval.
I think,
But to back to Rebecca's point, not to cut you off, Sam, planning is going to be the concern because y'all want to go to like building permit. So back to what Rebecca was saying, there's going to be a time element in there where y'all may want to build before the abandonment is actually approved for record plat. So, but we can talk about that.
Getting through the abandonment process is challenging.
Okay, I mean, at least our understanding of where we left it was WSSC was the challenging portion.
Yes, I agree.
And we have, I think, found some resolution with them on that with an updated letter, which we are submitting to DOT.
Okay.
So our hope is that that would move forward from that point on. But
Okay.
your point is taken. I think we're gonna do, and Troy, maybe a continued conversation about timing to make sure that there's not too much lapse, so we can try and get these as closely aligned as possible.
Yeah, just figure it out. Oh, go ahead.
And sorry, this is Shane. Also, like in the worst case, could we approve in the alternative or have conditions to approval? I think Goyer appropriately described where we were pretty far along, where the applicant was far along in the abandonment process. It was the WSSC's challenge associated with getting comfort with the infrastructure that's being referenced in association with their easement, which is where the abandonment issue left. We've since worked with WSSC to give them comfort with this infrastructure and don't foresee any new challenges. Again, we were already through, we had the public hearing period, which we know will need to reopen, but we would simply ask staff's flexibility. Again, either there might be other alternatives, either conditions of approval or approvals in the alternative to allow us to move forward with what we believe, and are optimistic will ultimately be a successful abandonment sought by the neighbor.
Yeah, there's appreciate this, Shane. Yeah, there's definitely options. Not to go into too much detail, but there's been scenarios where you show what you're building now, you entitle it what you're building now, but then you show a scenario how it can be laid out after abandonment, then you come back in for some type of abandonment, but it's already kind of been flushed out. But what I just don't want y'all to get hung up on is a situation where you're waiting for the abandonment and you are not able to record and the timing doesn't mesh up, but we can figure that out. But I want to go back to Sam because Sam was saying something for a second.
I just want to say it would be a lot easier process if your abandonment include the stairs. And because we're gonna have a hard time allowing stairs in the county right away. So if you have the abandonment covering the stairs and it's maintained by the applicant, that's gonna be optimal situation.
So I don't know if somebody wants to address the grade. I mean, the stairs are there because there's a pedestrian connection that we're trying to achieve in accordance with the recommendation of the sector plan. If overall staff would not like that connection because the 20-foot grade that exists would require stairs, then we can look to just not put in the connection. But the connection is there because the sector plan wanted to have a connection of some sort, but there's 20 feet of grade. So we proposed a pedestrian and bicycle through the runnel connection as a means to try to meet some of the intent of connectivity that was called out in the sector plan. We don't know how to make the connection with 20 natural feet of grade without stairs.
Okay. So what DOT needs to talk internally and figure out whether or not the stairs, what the options are for us. And so we'll try to get back to you within 2 weeks is probably the best time. So we'll talk to DTE about it and make a decision.
Yeah, and also Shane, I was just looking for if you can shift the grade differential from one side, which is inside the abandonment, the other side that's not. I think it's worth looking into.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah,
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Kind of shifted more onto
The grade lines, the grade is in line, like there's not, the grade is from Veers down to east, the entire length. There's 40 feet of grade across the site. There's 20 feet of grade at this end. So
There's 20 feet just at the stairs, not excluding the hammerhead.
So
and
we'll look for, we're happy to look for design solutions, but just so that everyone's on the same thing, that's why is to try to meet a connectivity intent that even if vehicular connectivity is not really technically possible because of the grade, we could still try to afford connectivity for the community in the form of pedestrian and bicycle. But again, DOT, That's fine. If you guys want to review it and let us know, then, and this was all, right, this current approach and what is in right of way and what is in easement, right, was the subject of many meetings with all parties involved to try to come up, including the applicant, including us, including MCDT, right, to try to come. But if there's a better way, or if goals have changed, then we're open to working with everyone.
Yep, I appreciate that. You know, I think right now, I'll go back to what Rebecca said. We're not looking for anything to change design wise. We're just trying to, we're going to
Well-
get back. At least right
So
now,
I think-
yeah.
I think what Sam was trying to say is that that it's like kind of flat and then it goes up steep. And so what we were looking for, and we'll talk about this on your driveway as well, your private drive, is instead of having it flat and then steep, maybe can we level it out, and have much more a better grade, so it's not like flat and then a 20% steep, maybe it's only 16% or something like that. Is that possible?
We could look at it, but there are driveways on the other side of this area, right? There are other properties who access their property. So we can look. I don't think that even if you drew a straight line from the bottom to the top, I'm not sure that that's going to be an acceptable slope, particularly in light of some of the other comments that we've received. But we're happy to look at alternative design solutions.
Okay.
The stair alignment is where it is also in coordination with WSSC and their easements and storm drains underneath.
Okay.
One thing about because you guys are talking about as WSSC. I have the last conversation with Jody in August.
With whom? I'm sorry?
Jody.
Jody? Okay.
Mhm.
Gensley, I'm assuming? Yeah.
And then I looking at the relocation application. That one has been reviewed by Garrett Watkins,
Correct.
but is nothing approved yet.
Well, we have a letter from Garrett saying that he is giving approval for the abandonment contingent upon us working through the site utility plan process, which we are in process with. So I think we may have another submission to give Garrett back to, but he gave us that sort of preliminary letter so we can move the abandonment forward. But all that said, I think there's still some ongoing discussion. We're not completely through with WSSC, but it's actively a discussion that we're having with them.
But we need a whole harmless agreement to approve.
Fully agree. We have draft language. We've worked on other whole harmless agreements, and we're asking our engineer to draft that up right now for review. Yeah. I know we're tracking away at time here. I think we had a series of comments, and again, we recognize we can't get into the depth of all of them, but I think one thing that came up to us was sort of the transition of the bike and pedestrian infrastructure to the opposite sides of Veers and University. I think there was a comment, and I'll only just read a small excerpt. Ensure /show all sidewalks, handicap ramps have matching receiving counterparts and are aligned to ADA, and that ADA connection is provided. Now, with this particular condition, I think we've highlighted this on a series of conversations before, where our final condition that's anticipated on our side of the property, it does not align with the infrastructure on the opposite side of the curb. And the way that this comment is drafted, it almost suggests that you're anticipating that the applicant be required to do offsite improvements, whether it be utility-wise or otherwise, to be able to create a receiving condition that does not exist or isn't feasible as it stands right now. Is that a fair understanding?
If you touch one corner, you touch them all, and you have to fix them all. I think there was a concept provided to you in the comments. I thought there was. I know that there was a concept somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Billy Whalen. There was a markup in the comments, in the supporting documents.
Yeah, so I don't know that we were talking about this earlier. I'm not sure that they send that stuff to you, but there is a document that's uploaded that shows a concept of it, of how you would fix it. It's we follow ProAg, and I believe that what you're proposing right now doesn't meet those standards. So there is a concept in there, and then we can talk about it further.
Okay, if
We don't have the people here. Matt Johnson's the person that would be talking to, so.
Amy, do you recall saying that? If we had, I mean, we'd like to
It
ask.
shows similar to our sketch plan where it's separated. However, kind of, we have corners with a lot of infrastructure.
Infrastructure that's existing in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, so we would have to take a look at that. You know, you have to look at it more closely.
Okay, but again, that is something that I think the team collectively looked at and said, hey, that has a lot of other spillover impacts beyond the bounds of our site that I think require additional discussion and more in-depth discussion with staff to make sure that we're on the same page as far as that is and what we can reasonably do. So I think a couple other comments that have come up, I think, are moving the speed table on our private center street. I think there's been several comments that I think talk about either the alignment of our garage entrances or relocating that speed table. And again, understand that the need for prioritizing pedestrian safety, right? But I think we are trying to solve some problems here on the site as far as circulation and reorienting people that come to the site. We're aware that these long unbroken medians in Wheaton create a situation that is not great from a vehicular standpoint. And we are trying the best within the bounds of our site to try and resolve these things. So while I think that we can explore an alternative to move that speed table out, I think a couple of things that initially come to mind is that I think where people get picked up and dropped off from the short-term parking, they're instinctively going to want to cross immediately in that location. And I think I think the speed table at least allows traffic to slow down and recognize that there is an opportunity for pedestrians to cross there. And if we shift that away from there, they're probably going to jaywalk, and that's going to create an even less safe condition. So that's something that we're mindful of. We can explore that. And I think also incoming traffic coming off of Veers Mill Road with a speed table right there, that also could create some distancing issues that we might need to look at as well. But that's something that I think we're going to have to work more intently on to try and resolve, and that we see some challenges and we're flagging it. And I think there's going to be more discussion there.
For touching on it, that was a big concern that we had. And I really appreciate you laying that out, because I think we're all on the same page here. My big concern, so I want to share with you what I definitely agree with. I definitely agree that we have pedestrian desire lines that are strong here, and we want to put the speed table where that's going to be, right? So the whole point of this, we love the speed table. We love that that's going to be, just as you said, it's going to be a great thing to make sure that when cars are coming off of Veers Mill, that they're not coming, too fast up there, and we're giving pedestrians the elevated, pun intended, status that they deserve. My concern here is that when we have an entrance on the top of the speed table, we're kind of undermining its purpose, right? Because the speed table is that when the cars come to crest, it's like a speed bump, right? So if the intent of the comment was to say either move the garage access point out or move the speed table so it makes sense to be somewhere, but we can't have cars coming out on the top of the speed table, because the whole point is to get them to slow down. If they're already at the crest, they're not going to slow down. So I love looking forward to working with you on this. And I'm not an architect, so I'm looking forward to your feedback and understanding the challenges that you're dealing with. One thought that I had for you guys to explore, since it sounds like you guys are open to that, is I think it's funny. So this one is probably not the best one to look at, but when you guys have the architectural, right? So you have a couple of things going on. You have them coming in off the street, and then they're looping around, and then in the middle is the ramp up. Maybe there's a way where you could come into the garage ramp and still get to the Pudo inside. So it has two benefits. You'll go straight if you're going into the garage ramp, or you make a right if you're trying to do the
pickup.
yeah.
Sure.
So that way all the cars are still coming out of that one point, and it would consolidate the driveways while still maintaining the integrity of the speed table. So I don't know if that perfectly works, but that's kind of where we're coming from with that comment.
Yeah, we were hoping.
Let's set up a design
Sure.
call, because
I'm probably getting ahead of myself, sorry.
They're good ideas. It's just the ramp is bi-directional, right? So there's an up and it's bi-directional, and it's going up and down. And so that we could do what that suggestion is, but you still have to get then to the ramp the other way. But what we think would be helpful is to set up a call to discuss this and lay out a few more of the considerations that we're trying to balance, right? And so that, and then we can all engage and say, like, here are the 7 things that we're trying to, and pedestrian safety we know is up at the top. But there are several other considerations, and maybe together we could come up with a different solution. But this is a solution that we thought worked.
Thanks.
I think I'll say at a high level, because I know we're closing in on our allotted time here. At a high level, I think there's some comments that we're seeing, and again, we got these relatively late on Friday, so it's a lot to ingest and to kind of think through the implications of it. But there's some comments where we suspect there might be a little bit of conflict between reviewers that I think we need to look at more closely. I think there's been an ongoing conversation about that pork chop that we've been going back and forth on for several series of drawings. And I think one of the things that we're concerned with is that there's a fire access concern in terms of radius. There's a desire for staff to remove that. And I think we're having some different sort of reconciling some of our perceived requirements in terms of maintaining those areas. So I think what's important for us to do is to sort of continue to review these comments, distill them down to a more poignant list. Troy, I will set up a series of calls with you, and maybe we'll break them out by the nature of what we need to discuss so we have the right parties there. But again, I think there's some items that I think have some implications that while staff is making good comments, and we can see some of the merit, I think some of the context that we have to think through might be lost. And I think with us sharing that with you guys and discussing it collectively, we might be able to come up with a better solution that's, solves every issue that we're trying to resolve here. I will open it up to the team. I know we had a couple other items there. Is there anything else that we want to flag with staff before we have eclipsed our time?
I think I just wanted to flag the parallel parking on East Avenue.
Yeah.
That I think, remind me if I'm wrong, there was previously loading there at some point.
Yes, we had a sort of pickup drop off to that section, the smaller height, the CRN height building. We had a pickup drop off that sort of swooped into the garage. I think, and I apologize if my history is incorrect, but Troy, you gave us a comment that wanted us to pull parking out onto the street. And I think we're getting a comment that's asking us to remove some of that parking now.
When are you referencing the comment from?
I'd have to go back and investigate
I
because
guess, yeah, not to get into all,
right.
if there was something to that sketch plan, I don't know if we would have went to that level of detail at sketch plan. We're at the preliminary plan stage. I guess where we're at right now, East Avenue, just the dynamic of East Avenue, we've always been trying to work for it to be a residential character. I think at concept, we even have renderings. We worked out with the facade, the compatibility. And so right now, what we're saying is that we will like to see, we're not saying remove all the on-street park. I think right now you have an opportunity to provide more of a buffer, more landscaping. And with all the street parking, you're limiting that component. And there's a lot of parking with the site. There's a lot of access points, a huge garage. I just don't know if the benefit of this on-street parking for the project outside of doing more compatibility with the residential nature, what's the priority? And so, knowing that the dynamic with this, with where the community's at, with this site, if we can get more elements that provides those features, I think that's where we're at right now. So not saying that should be totally removed. I think DOT's and DPS comments saying limit the parking. And our comments right now, you're keeping the overhead wires. So you got a tree species that would have to be under those wires, right? And so, having more of an opportunity to do more landscape, I think that's what we're looking for in this piece, and that can set up the buffer between the height. So
I think we read that as almost a full elimination. So again, something we can explore. I think I hear the mandate to reduce rather than fully eliminate.
The other problem is that you need to meet ProAg requirements, which is a 13-foot deep pavement of parking.
Unless they're close to the curb extension, that you can use the crosswalk as that. So, I mean, let's double check that, because I think there may be an opportunity. Because I also flagged it for ADA.
ideally, yeah, if we can remove, I think that eliminates a lot of questions. I wouldn't say totally take that off the comment. I think, we're saying limit in certain aspects, but if there's an opportunity to eliminate the parking, I don't know I think that would be ideal, and I think that would go a lot way with the community as well. So
we eliminate it?
The on-street parking. I'm saying let's not take that off the table just within this discussion.
Okay. All right, and again, this is not a matter of debate. I just need to understand because we didn't have it before and there was a reason why we introduced it. So I want to make sure I can look back in our history,
There's a
determine.
reason why we introduced parking on the street.
Yes, I feel like we got a comment that suggested that we needed to add it. So I just need to go back and make sure my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted to know where that came from, right?
What you're saying is parking is required to rein on the speed of the vehicles going down street. We do need the parking, but we think maybe we could take a fresh look at it and try to eliminate some of the parking spaces and provide more tree cover instead.
Okay, understood.
So we're at our time right now. We got at least in this portion of the DRC, we can work with scheduling and go from there. But I think, right now there's another applicant after us. But we can.
Want to squeeze in one quick question.
Oh, yeah.
One quick question. So we are getting a lot of ADA comments as it relates to the private street. I think we all recognize grade is a serious concern here. You flagged that as well, Rebecca. So we're getting questions asking about our ADA accessible path on the private street. We're highlighting an ADA accessible path around the site. But again, I think we recognize that grade presents a significant challenge that is very difficult to overcome. So I think there needs to be some thought around that and how stringent that request is. Because again, we're limited by the physical conditions of the site and what we are able to do reasonably.
So go fix the maximum is 12%. You're using fire, so you'll have to fix that anyway, and then come back to us and tell us what, then present the problem again, I think. But 12% is the maximum.
And is the expectation to provide ADA accessibility from the top of the private street all the way down to east?
I mean, I think that's what planning is asking for. I'm just telling you what the fire department,
Requires,
obviously,
right.
I don't have any say, but our private roads should be built to public road standards. 12% is the maximum grade, and it might even be less, 10%, but I think Marie said 12%, so.
So we're,
So
just to be clear.
the international fire,
Go ahead,
the
sorry.
international fire codes adopted 10% is the official adopted code to line up with DOT and work together. We've always gone with 12% in Montgomery County. So your maximum for a fire department access path is 12%.
And Marie, would you let us take that path under our section 1 building, similar to like what we did at Hillendale? We have a route under that building, which we could use as an exit for fire trucks from the private road.
You cannot use access under a building to serve that building. You could give access under a building to serve a different building unless you protect. Maybe. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, no, we just came off doing something very similar, particularly for exiting the vehicles, not arriving vehicles. And we have a similar case here where we could alleviate the grade, basically exit back onto Veers.
We really want you should be building that road to public road standard. It should be a maximum of 12% grade, because especially.
The problem is that's the distance. We are struggling with the grade.
You start grading at a certain point, like you have a flat portion and then it goes steep down. And when you hit the county roadway intersection, you have to have a landing grade, and I'm not sure that you can meet that requirements. And
well, we were stopping the ramp on property, so there's plenty of landing grade before we got to the road.
So you
I think
bottom
our
out.
bigger issue though is we had a grade transition on the ramp. That's part of what also makes it steeper. But beneath that ramp, we actually have a service way that is where all deliveries, truck traffic, garbage accesses the site. So that comes in off University, it exits on east. It is functionally a one-way alley that goes through the site. It is well below the retail. We have to have elevators to get up to the retail, but that was how we actually dealt with loading larger trucks, garbage. So if that road pushes down, that pushes into the clearance of the alleyway that pushes through the site.
Again, when you intersect with the county roadway, we have to be comfortable with that intersection, and I'm not sure that we're comfortable with it at this point.
Yeah, I think the comment, like I said, we do gotta clean it, close out the meeting, but yeah, we'll do the breakout meetings and get scheduling, and we'll go from there. But it's more like highlighting it, because we know it's an issue and we need to get some determinations. That's why you did kind of get a solution within those comments. So
Understood. Again, we appreciate the time. We look forward to the continued conversation, and Troy, you and I will work to see if we can appropriately schedule sessions to work through these. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Filling in for Christina Sorrento, who is out on vacation. This is Olney Acres preliminary plan. It's the last item for today. And Up County team is, I think, ready to go.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I'm Françoise Carrier with the law firm of Brigman, Burbridge, Schwartz, and Gilday, which I guess you guys all know, just a habit. And we have a video, the applicant, Vina Alfred, head of Alfred House, and Kyle Hughes, our engineer with MHG. So a lot of the comments we can respond to and writing, and I think will be non-controversial. A couple that we wanted to discuss. One is the, in comment 16, I think there was maybe a typo because there was a reference to maybe needing more right of way, but we're already providing more than the master plan calls for.
Can you read out loud what the comment is?
What if I had been clever enough to bring the comments with me?
No worries. I think we have it. Here. Let's
Apologize.
read out loud so that everybody knows what we're talking about.
No, I just referenced like the required right of way. And I said that additional right of way may be needed to accommodate all design parameters on the complete street design guide. But it's just because like I believe that that's not a closed section like street. It will not be closed section.
So if it's an open road section.
Yeah.
So complete streets unfortunately, it doesn't address open road sections. So what it does, it talks about the pavement and the sidewalk, but if I have a swale and you have to put a sidewalk in, all that stuff needs to be within the right of way. So the additional right of way may be, so you need to provide a cross section showing us the complete paving section with the swale and the swale and the sidewalk within the right of way.
Kyle, can you respond to that, please? We can't hear you.
Is this any better?
Great.
Yes, we provided a section in the drawings, which provides all of that within the right of way. So everything you just mentioned, the swale, the buffer, the swale, and then the sidewalk is all within the 80-foot right of way.
Okay.
And we're able to achieve that. So I don't think that additional right of way would be needed.
That's fine. If you were able to fit everything within the right of way, that's fine with us. Yeah.
Great reviewer, DOT reviewer will look at it, make sure.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't something we didn't know.
No, but like I said, the complete streets doesn't really discuss open section roadways. Cause it doesn't talk about the swale. It just talks about like assuming that you're curved everything.
It's amazing that anything got missed in such a comprehensive document.
Well, we basically what we do is we refer back to the 2000s or the thousands, standards. And so you can, anything outside of the paving section, you can use that.
Okay. All right. The sidewalk down the driveway, that's something that the applicant really feels is not necessary here. There's going to be very low traffic on this driveway. 3 single-family homes, and there is one Alfred House facility, but even that does not have a lot of traffic, just employees and, visitors, but not, the residents don't drive. So that just seems like an excessive expense, an excessive amount of pavement for a project this size.
Are you talking about the comment that I did about the sidewalk connecting to the proposed development, or the sidewalk that goes along the frontage?
The sidewalk that, that you suggested along the driveway and the
Okay.
cul-de-sac.
No, yeah, that's fine. I was out last week and I didn't know if this was going to be like a street per se. So that's why I made that comment in case. But since it's not going to be like a road, then we're fine without the sidewalk connection.
Great.
The other, you did ask for curb ramps at Archwood Way. I don't know how strongly staff feels about that. It's an intersection in the sense that there's one street hitting another street, but there isn't a, it's not a through street. So I guess can you expand a little bit on the need for that?
What's that comment? Sorry. I'm
Sorry, I don't know why I didn't bring my laptop so I'd have the numbers. See.
No, I don't think.
Archway, where's that? It's, if you pan up, you can see it a little.
It's comment 18.
Sure, because I have written down 27. Maybe it appears in more than one place.
No, I just like in 18, I said, please label
That was
and
great.
let's take on
Can you
cake.
try 27, please?
27.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Billy.
Oh,
Yeah, it's 27. Sorry.
well, that was a DOT comment.
Yeah, there should be, you should show lead sidewalks where a crossing would be to Archwood. I believe we had that on the previous plan before this amendment also.
Oh, that's because there was a driveway there. The previous plan, we were putting a driveway that was going to be right across from Archwood, which made it, a cross, a through intersection. Without that, that driveway is now been eliminated because we're going to have one driveway to serve all 4 lots. So I wonder if you still feel that it's necessary to have a crosswalk that on one side of the street is just in the middle of the street.
Is there sidewalk on Archwood?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so there should be a connection from I guess the west side to the east side.
And there's so,
But there are no receiving ramps on the Archwood side. Can you repeat what your comment was, Billy?
So,
Just for us to understand, sorry,
Um,
having a hard time following.
yeah, it was shows sidewalk ramp connections to Archwood Way. So yeah, there are there's the ramps on the other side of Cashel, so there should be some type of connection from the west to the east on Cashel along their frontage. I thought planning had a similar comment also.
I don't believe so. I mean, we are putting in a sidewalk on our frontage.
So what he's saying is, if you're putting a sidewalk and is it 18-100? Is that where it
Yes,
is?
yes.
So what we would, because there's a sidewalk across the street, we would ask you, it's an intersection, so we'd ask you to provide ramps so that they meet across, so you can cross the street.
And are we providing ramps on both sides?
Yeah.
So that would be 4 ramps?
No, there's 2 already, and then you'd add 2 more.
Oh, I see. They already have them on the side. Okay, yeah, I think the applicant is willing to accept that. Are you going to be wanting a stop sign?
That would be an operational, so I wouldn't even, I think what's out there, we wouldn't ask to do anything.
so it would just be the ramps, and would there be a crosswalk as well?
No, we don't put crosswalks
No.
at every location.
Okay.
If they decided to do that, it would be determined at permit stage. Exactly.
And
Okay,
are we sure we need 2 ramps? Like, seems like 1 would be sufficient if somebody was trying to cross the street there.
For the pedestrian master plan, it's important that we have all 4.
Okay.
It's 3. But yeah, sorry. Well, I mean, it's gonna be 2 on this side, 2 on the other. So it's
Yeah.
okay. Kyle, anything else that you'd like to bring up that I didn't?
Let me go through. There was, did we want to talk about the lots? So there was a comment about the lot configuration changing from the pre-preliminary plan approval.
Yeah.
And the main reason why we did that was so that the cul-de-sac in the middle, before there was the property lines were kind of going through the cul-de-sac, and we weren't able to put a stormwater facility in that space. And that space is really is a perfect space for treating the drive aisle. So we reconfigure the property lines so that we can put a stormwater facility there that doesn't cross property boundaries, which is not allowed by DPS. And yeah, the setbacks, the changes here don't really affect the building restriction lines.
They don't affect the building restriction lines that were prescribed in the pre-preliminary plan approval. The setbacks between the cul-de-sac and the buildings are changed, but those were not, there was nothing special about them. They were not flag lot specific. They were standard setbacks.
That was just once again for the stormwater.
Yes. There was also a question about what the front setbacks are for the flag lots, and flag lots don't really have front setbacks. There's some DPS guidance on that I think Kyle will submit, so you have it. Because obviously the front setbacks would be, I don't know, 100 feet, a very long distance.
I think we have DPS zoning on the call, so they can chime in as well on that if you have questions. Do we have DPS zoning?
You know,
Not today, okay, sorry.
I can get with them later.
Okay.
So go back.
Kyle, anything else?
No, that's all I had.
I related to what we were talking about just now. I was gonna ask about the house, the orientation of the units. Is it the same as the pre-preliminary plan, or did we reorient?
I think they're pretty much the same orientation, right, Kyle?
Yeah, they're all facing the cul-de-sac. I think they shifted around a little bit to better utilize the space. But yeah, they're
Got it. I was specifically curious about the one behind the Alfred House facility. That I don't know the number. That first one there. This one. And that rear yard, how close it is to the adjacent house. Yeah, that one. See, can you zoom out just a little bit? What's existing behind that house? Is it another house?
Another Alfred House facility
Okay,
under the same ownership.
okay, gotcha. Okay, so it's the same ownership.
And that was discussed at pre-preliminary plan, and that setback was prescribed.
Okay. Wanted to double check that. Good.
Any other questions from staff?
Pretty good. It makes sense. And I'll see your comments when the task comes back.
Okay, I think that's all we had.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, sir.
thank you, everyone.